Ever notice how when you finally carve out some time for yourself, like really being alone, you become super aware of, well, everything?
Yeah, totally. Like how you're spending your time, your energy, all those things we usually just kind of brush past.
Exactly. And that's actually what we're focusing on in this deep dive today, taking a closer look at the LPot community's Being Alone series. Specifically, how they talk about using that alone time as a way to set and honor boundaries.
Right. It's kind of like turning being alone, which some folks might see as a negative, into this opportunity to build up your sense of self. I mean, the LPOCOP seem to really emphasize that.
For sure. So we're going to try to unpack that a little, highlight those key insights on how being alone, even for a bit, can be the perfect time to figure out and solidify some healthy boundaries in your life.
Sounds good.
Let's start with the most basic, the most important things, really. Time and energy. I mean, they're valuable no matter what, right?
Mm,
But when you're alone, they seem to become even more, well, precious.
definitely. And the LPOC community, they actually suggest scheduling alone time, like put it in your calendar, make it an appointment.
That's a good idea.
Otherwise, stuff just creeps in, doesn't it?
Uh-huh. And it's not just about protecting time, but also about setting boundaries with, well, the digital world,
Yeah.
like our phones, the internet, all that.
Oh, huge. The constant notifications, endless scrolling. The LPOT folks really encourage being intentional with tech, limiting screen time, turning off those notifications, and using those tools when it actually serves you.
Otherwise, it just uses you.
Right.
Okay, so say you've set some boundaries. They're clear in your mind, even written down. How do you actually enforce them? Like when someone or something tries to step over that line?
That's where the LPOT community's advice gets really interesting. They're all about consistency, like
Yeah.
actually reminding people of your boundaries when needed, politely but firmly.
Which can be hard.
It can. And sometimes it might even mean, removing yourself from situations where your boundaries aren't being respected. But the more you do it, the more it becomes, well, second nature,
Right, for you and the people around you. It's like setting a standard.
Exactly.
Now, this next point from the LPOT community might hit home for a lot of people. They talk about letting go of those relationships where, despite your best efforts, your boundaries just aren't being honored.
And it makes sense, right? If you're trying to cultivate some inner peace, being surrounded by people who constantly disregard your boundaries is, well, not going to help.
For sure. The LPOT community really emphasizes taking stock of those relationships, figuring out which ones actually leave you feeling drained or, like you were saying, disrespected.
Yeah,
It's not about cutting everyone off, but being mindful of who you let into your life.
absolutely. It's all about prioritizing those connections that are mutually beneficial, where both people's needs and boundaries are acknowledged and, honored.
Okay, so now for the more positive stuff. How do you actually celebrate setting those boundaries and sticking to them?
The LPOT community frames this whole thing as self-care, right? And a big part of self-care is recognizing and celebrating your wins. When you've successfully upheld a boundary or when you see the positive impact it's having on your life.
Even the little things, right? Like saying no to an extra commitment when you really needed that downtime.
Totally. And by acknowledging those things, you're actually reinforcing those healthy habits. It's like a positive feedback loop.
Makes you want to keep going.
Yeah.
Now, one last thing that really stuck with me from the LPUC community, their emphasis on being alone as this positive, empowering thing, not just something to tolerate.
Yeah, I love that. They really flip the script on how we usually view solitude. Instead of seeing it as negative or lonely, they present it as this incredible opportunity for self-growth, for finding your own purpose without those external pressures. Like, it's a chance to get to know yourself better, to cultivate that independence and inner strength.
And maybe then, when you go back out into the world, those boundaries you've been working on are even stronger.
Definitely.
So I think the biggest takeaway from the LPOC Communities series is that being alone can be a powerful tool for establishing and strengthening the boundaries that ultimately lead to, well, more peaceful and fulfilling life. It's not about isolating yourself. It's about creating the space to thrive on your own terms.
And on that note, I'd like to leave you with a thought. As you reflect on your own experiences with solitude, what is one boundary, big or small, that you feel inspired to strengthen in your life right now?
If you're interested in diving deeper into this topic, check out the LPOC community and their Being Alone series. You can find them online. Tons of great resources there. And hey, if you found this deep dive helpful, let us know. We always love hearing from you.